Under the orange glow of a California morning, 4 children wake to the same impossible question they've asked for more than a year. Where is Mom? Not because she drifted away, not because she chose silence, but because, somewhere between fear and courage, a mother of 4 vanished. Before she could walk into a courtroom and tell the truth she had carried for so long. This is the story of Nikki Cheng Saelee-McCain, a daughter, a sister, a friend, and a mother, whose voice was almost stolen, yet refuses to be quiet. Nikki was 39. She lived in Shasta County, Northern California. Country roads that curve along the river, light breaking through the pines, a place where people wave through windshields and news travels fast. To those who loved her, Nikki wasn't a headline. She was the gentle reminder text, the ride to practice, the laugh that cracked open a heavy day. She noticed the small things, what you liked, what you needed, what you were too proud to ask for. She had plans, too. Plans to protect her kids. Plans to stand up in court and say, "This happened to me." Plans to walk out of a chapter that had been closing in around her. In mid-May of 2024, as spring tilted into summer, Nikki's world narrowed to a single decision with 1,000 ripples. Testify in a domestic violence case involving her husband, Tyler McCain. For months, she had been gathering strength, one difficult day at a time. The calendar didn't just hold appointments, it held promises, moments she owed to herself and to her children. But somewhere in that week, Nikki's daily rhythm fell out of step. Calls went unanswered, messages turned into read receipts without replies. The people who knew her felt it first in their bodies. The dread before the facts. Here are the facts we do have. On May 17, 2024, Nikki was seen at Mercy Medical Center in Redding and texted family around midnight. A few hours later, just after 3 a.m. on May 18th, investigators say her phone last connected near the Anderson home she shared with her husband. Then, silence. 5 days passed. On May 22nd, her sister reported her missing. That phone call wasn't just paperwork. It was the first step in a search that would stretch across months, counties, and the aching patience of a family. "Where is Nikki?" became a litany repeated by friends, neighbors, and strangers until their voices went hoarse. 3 days later, May 25th, investigators found her vehicle near the Shasta County line. A car is supposed to be a breadcrumb, a clue that points forward. But this one felt like a door closing. Inside, according to officials, were signs no family wants to imagine. The smell of decomposition and blood later confirmed to be Nikki's. The case that began as a disappearance grew heavier, more final. It didn't answer the question the children were asking, but it changed the question investigators were asking. If you've ever lost something precious, you know the ritual. Retrace your steps, check the obvious places, then the impossible ones. Law enforcement did what they always do. Warrants, interviews, searches, canvases, long days that turn into longer nights. And the story the evidence was telling began to take shape. It sketched a line from fear to control, from bruised days to court dates, from a woman preparing to testify to a system struggling to protect her in the crucial hours before she could. As the investigation widened, attention focused, inevitably, on the person closest to her life and the case, her husband, Tyler McCain. This wasn't gossip, it was gravity, the pull of patterns, timelines, and histories that don't sit comfortably together. Court records show Nikki reported a violent incident in December 2023, and charges were filed. When she vanished, prosecutors later dismissed the case because she could no longer testify. In 2025, authorities said those domestic violence charges would be refiled alongside the homicide case. Due process matters. So does pattern. While searches continued, Nikki's family did what the brave do when the worst introduces itself. They kept showing up. Her sisters, Chloe and Kay, held the line, talking to reporters not because they wanted to be public people, but because Nikki couldn't. They held vigils. They organized. They begged for tips. They begged for the thing every grieving person begs for. One clean fact that makes sense of the senseless. They sat with children who understood too much and too little at the same time. They visited a bedroom that knew how to keep its secrets. They learned the choreography of court corridors: sit, stand, wait, breathe. In March 2025, nearly a year after she vanished, the investigation formally shifted. Authorities announced what the evidence had been whispering for months. This was a homicide investigation. Hard words said softly. You can feel the weight of them. You can see the space they leave behind. But with that declaration came something else: clarity. Not the kind the heart needs, but the kind the law demands. Then in August 2025, the case crossed another threshold. At a joint press conference, the Shasta County District Attorney and the sheriff told the community what so many had feared and expected. Tyler McCain had been arrested and charged with murder, with a special circumstance alleging he killed to prevent Nikki from testifying. Prosecutors emphasized something crucial. Under California law, a body is not required to file a murder charge. They also noted that this is Shasta County's first no-body homicide case. McCain was booked without bail. The charge, they said, rests on evidence you can't hold in your hands but can follow like a map. The last messages, the timelines, the car, the science that doesn't care about rumors, and a documented history of domestic violence already braided through the months leading to May. The words "no body" sound clinical. They aren't. They mean that somewhere there is a place that knows the last thing that happened to Nikki, and it is not speaking. It means the people who loved her still don't have a place to stand and say goodbye. It means birthdays with an empty chair and a car that becomes a kind of headstone. It means a legal system moving forward while a family is asked to live in parentheses. What do you do when you can't bury the person you love? You do what Chloe and Kay have done. You keep telling the truth out loud. You show up for court dates. You become an expert in your sister's last week on Earth. You memorize your grief and wear it like armor. You explain to children that love sometimes moves mountains and sometimes must learn how to walk around them. You hold on to the small rituals, pictures on the fridge, the way she made coffee, the song she always turned up at a red light, and you let them be your discipline while the case becomes the world's. To understand Nikki's story, you have to understand what it means for a person to gather themselves for a day in court. It's not just a date. It's a decision repeated quietly, hour after hour. I will not minimize what happened. I will not let fear win. I will go, even if it shakes me. Anyone who has walked that hallway knows the cost. Testifying is a promise to the future. It says, the cycle ends with me. It says, my children deserve a house without dread. It says, I'm worthy of safety, and I'm willing to fight for it, even if my knees tremble. The prosecution alleges that promise is the motive, that silencing Nikki's testimony was the goal. If that allegation is proven in court, then this story isn't just about one family. It's a warning siren for every system that waits for a court date to protect a victim who needs protection right now. It raises a question we should all be asking. How do we build bridges that carry someone safely from the moment they report to the day they testify? Meanwhile, the investigation continues. Nothing about this is simple. No body cases are puzzles where a dozen pieces are missing and the picture still has to be complete. They require patience, precise science, and the courage to ask a jury to believe what the evidence shows. Even when the evidence cannot point to a grave, they require communities to resist rumor and choose responsibility, to report what they saw, what they heard, what they suspect. They require us to care about a woman most of us never met, because caring is the only way cases like this move. But this is also a love story, the kind we don't often tell. It's a story about sisters who refuse to let their sibling become a statistic, about children who keep asking the right question because the world owes them an answer, about neighbors who tape up flyers, detectives who chase quiet leads, and prosecutors who write charges that say, to anyone who is listening, that a voice can be heard even when a body is missing. Listen closely and you can hear Nikki in the spaces between these sentences, in the plans she made, in the proof she gathered, in the way her name moves through a courtroom, steady as a pulse. You can hear her in the choices of other people who will leave tonight because they listen to this story and recognize their own. You can hear her every time someone says there is help and means it. In Shasta County, one of those doors is called One Safe Place, and there are doors like it in every county. Behind each door is a person who will say, "You are not alone. We will help you write the next page." The children still wake up with the same question, but there is something else on the table now. Something they didn't have 16 months ago. There is a case. There is a charge. There is a courtroom waiting. There is a community that knows their mother's name and is willing to keep saying it. There is an investigation that hasn't allowed the absence of a body to become the absence of justice. There's also a reward, up to $30,000, for information that helps find Nikki. That number isn't just money. It's a message to anyone who knows even a small piece of the truth. If you're listening and you know something, anything, you are part of this story now. Maybe you drove a road that day and saw a vehicle pulled over where it shouldn't have been. Maybe you heard a conversation that didn't make sense until now. Maybe you know a place that suddenly grew quiet when it should have been loud. The line between bystander and witness is often just a phone call. It is the difference between a family living in a question mark and a family holding an answer. Justice in cases like this doesn't feel like a triumphant bell. It feels like a steady drumbeat. It sounds like footsteps in a hallway, pages turning in a file, the click of a handcuff closing, a judge's calendar filling. It's not fast, it's not cinematic, but it's faithful. And faithfulness is how you honor a person whose last days were crowded by fear. Faithfulness is how you tell 4 children one day that the world didn't look away. We don't know yet where Nikki is, but we do know who she is. She is the reason a county learned how to try a case without a body. She is the reason posters went up and lights went on, and strangers stood shoulder to shoulder with a family they'd never met. She is the reason a courtroom will say her name in full and ask a jury to listen with both their minds and their hearts. She is the reason you're still here, listening, when you could have clicked away. So here's what we owe Nikki. We owe her the courtesy of staying until the verdict. We owe her the respect of learning from her story. We owe her the love of making sure that someone else's mother gets to keep her court date, her morning coffee, her front seat sing-along. We owe her the dignity of refusing to let fear rewrite the end of her chapter. If you're living a life that looks like the weeks before Nikki disappeared, please hear this. You are not the sum of what someone else did to you. You are not trapped by their anger. There are people who will believe you, and there are laws that, while imperfect, can help you step into a safer room. You deserve a future that is louder than your fear. And to everyone else, to the good neighbors, to the men and women who read case files under fluorescent lights, to the reporters who keep asking questions when the camera's cool, to the jurors who will someday sit in a box and decide what these next pages say. We are all the authors now. I decide whether Nikki's voice echoes or fades. We decide whether these children grow up in a community that kept its promises. A mother of 4 vanished. A car was found. Evidence spoke. A county listened. A charge was filed. And somewhere out there, there is a truth still waiting to be found. Until it is, we will not stop telling this story. Until it is, we will not stop saying her name. This is for Nikki, for her sisters, for 4 children who deserve an answer, for every person who never made it to their court date, for the ones who will. If you know something, say something. If you need help, ask for it. And if you love Nikki, keep loving her out loud. Justice is coming, one careful step at a time.